Hi friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee and today is the first planting day of 2023. I'm very excited to get out in the garden, get my hands in the dirt and start planting with you guys. But first, I wanted to start off by giving you the results of our soil experiment. If you missed that video, I had a really difficult time with my seed starts this year. Many of them died, many of them are struggling, and there were several reasons for that, but one of them I truly believed was that I had gotten a bad bag of soil. And I did, it's true. So I started a fresh set of seeds 3 ways. I used I had 2 different bags of soil that I had purchased from the store. One was a seed starting mix, one was a potting mix. And then I had also purchased 5 yards of garden mix soil that was delivered via dump truck to my yard. And I started seeds in all 3 of them to compare and see if any of them were a problem child. And indeed, there was a problem child. So first up, these were all started on the same day. So these are sugar snap peas that I started using my Espoma organic seed starter mix. And I'll put a picture of that somewhere here. And they're doing really, really well. So the seed starting mix was certainly not the problem. And I can rest assured use it in the future, yada, yada. That wasn't the problem. I also started some sugar snap peas. I started a whole tray of stuff, sugar snap peas being one, using the garden mix that I got delivered via dump truck. And they are also doing very well. So this also was not the problem, which I knew it wasn't the problem because I got that way after I had started all of my seeds. But I wanted to make sure that it was healthy soil, nonetheless. Lastly, I purchased a bag of Kellogg All Natural potting mix. I'll put another picture here. It tricked me by saying organic plus, but did not actually state that it was organic. Come to find out, it used organic components, but itself was not organic, versus my seed starter mix, which stated it was an organic seed starting mix. So a little bit of that propaganda there for you, that those marketing tricks that they use. Again, started the same day. Here are those sugar snap peas. Started the same day. And you can't tell me that it's because this is a potting mix versus a seed starting mix, because I also started seeds in my garden soil that came off of a dump truck that was full of rocks and sticks and stuff, because seed starting mix is really fluffy. So of course the seeds would start well in there, versus this is very barky and dense, but they started just as well in my garden soil mix as well. So that's not the problem. Something in this bag of soil is no good. I can't say confidently that it was contaminated with the Grazon. I have absolutely no idea what is wrong with it to make it act like this. 2 of these only just germinated the other day, so super, super late germination. These 3 germinated a long time ago, and already this one looks really sad and is shriveling. The leaves are curling in on themselves. So this bag of soil was no good. So I'm not saying that that's completely why I had so many failures this year. I think there were a lot of things that played into that caused my starts to struggle and not get off to a good start. But that soil, I up-potted all of my plants using that potting mix. I started them with the seed starting mix, up-potted them into the potting mix, and then ultimately they'll go out into the garden with the garden mix. And so that's why, like my tomatoes, for example, really tragic, really hard for me. My tomatoes were a complete and utter fail this year, and it's because I up-potted my healthy starts into that potting mix, and then from there they just shriveled and died, and I've lost almost all of them. There's a few that are hanging on for dear life, and we're gonna get those out ASAP because I'm hoping that once we get them into good soil, they'll take off. But I did end up supplementing with a lot of stuff, a lot of starts from nurseries and such, and we're gonna go outside and talk about that right now. These babies I'm gonna go ahead and plant today. I want to plant the ones in the tray too, but I'm not quite ready to plant all of that stuff yet, so we will do that here in a few days, which we'll talk about. Okay, before we start planting out, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the seeds that I started, and then I'll show you what I ended up supplementing by purchasing from the store. I'm also gonna point out to you which items have been up potted into that potting mix that ended up being no-go for me, so that you can see what's struggling and what's not, and you'll have that comparison in your head. It'll also give you a good idea of what I ended up having to purchase from the store and why. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So this entire tray here, I started using that potting mix because I wasn't sure yet what was causing the issue. I didn't know if it was the seed starting mix. And so this tray is that potting mix. And so everything here is struggling really bad. I started these seeds months ago, and look, I mean, they're tiny. They're struggling, they're not looking great, and that's why. These are my tomato starts. I up potted them into that potting mix, and it's just, I mean, so many of them have died off completely. This one, for example, totally dead there. This is a good example of somebody who's hanging on for dear life, really trying. And all of the, I mean, guys, these are literally like an inch tall. They're pitiful, and it's because of the contaminated soil. And so I'm gonna still plant them out and hope for the best, but I did purchase tomato starts to make up for it because I don't even know if these are gonna take off in time for me to get anything from them. My pepper plants were also started in that potting mix and then up potted into my garden soil. That's what's in these cups, are my garden soil. And so some of them did come back. Some of them are looking a lot better than they were looking before, but still, they're still super behind. Here are a couple of the other tomatoes that are in that potting mix. Same for this tray here. This tray was also started in that potting mix. It looks a little better, but only because these are varieties that get taller. These are sunflower starts, for example. And so they look better, but only because they're taller. Like, they still have, you know, curling leaves, and they're still not looking great. So much didn't even germinate at all. So many spots where nothing germinated. This tray over here looks a little bit better. This tray I started a long time ago using my seed starting mix, and then I never up potted them because at that point I wasn't sure what was happening and I was afraid to do anything at all. So these are small only because they've been in these little cells for a really long time, and it's time to finally go ahead and get these in the ground. Over here, same exact thing. Everything I just said for this tray is true for this tray too. Everything looks small only because I was afraid to up pot because I didn't know what was going on. But everything looks healthy. It's all very nice and green and looks good. It's just anxious to get, you know, some more nutrients so that they can get even bigger. Over here, this tray I started a long time ago, back in like early January, because I was sad and I needed some green in my life. And so there are some things in here that are honestly probably past their prime. Like this lettuce bolted already. I don't even know if I'm going to plant this lettuce out. But I purchased these two herbs. Some strawberries that I purchased, some other plants that I started. Here I've got my chamomile and my dwarf tomatoes. I up potted both of these into that potting mix. I'm so sad. Look at this tomato, how sad it is. It's a dwarf tomato I started back in January, up potted into this potting mix, and it's just barely hanging on. And so I'm going to get this chamomile planted in the ground. I wasn't planning on it. I was going to keep it in this pot and keep it on my outside patio table, but I'm going to go ahead and get it in the ground because it needs to get out of this mix. I don't know what I'm going to do with these dwarf tomatoes yet. Unsure. I did a little project over here. I found this box on the side of the road, this crate, and I thought it was really cute. And so I painted the trim white. And I planted a bunch of strawberries and mint in here. It's my little mojito box, and it's doing very well. It's taken off. Got a rosemary plant. My neighbor gave me some lilies, some daylilies. And then over here are some things I purchased from the store. I've got a couple pepper plants, a couple tomato plants, a basil, some rhubarb, some more strawberries. I think this is this zucchini? Nope, these are cucumbers here. And then over here, I bought some more. Everything that you see in these little cups I purchased from the farm that I get my raw milk from. I wanted to support them. Bunch of tomatoes, bunch of peppers, some zucchini, and then over here from my big local nursery I got more tomatoes and peppers. And so I've definitely had to just accept the fact that my garden is not going to be as prolific as it was last year, because I don't have nearly the number of successful starts going into the garden this year that I had last year. I had a ton of stuff going into the garden this time last year, and I just don't have those numbers this year. But, you know, I'm not going to let it get me down. This is just my second year gardening. I learned a very important lesson, so I don't want to necessarily say it was even a failure, because at least I got a lesson. I learned something from it. And I am still putting enough in the garden that I will end up with some harvest, and I'll still be able to do some preservation. And then I'm blessed with wonderful local farmers markets and farmers that I can purchase whatever I'm lacking in when it comes time to preserve up food. So, you know, I'm not going to let it get me down. I tried, I learned, and we're just going to move on. So today is planting day. There's one other mistake that I made, and that's going to be really interesting for us today. I have failed. I started out labeling. I labeled everything when I started it, and then things got so messy and chaotic when things started to die because of the soil issue that I panicked and just started moving things around, trying to figure out what the problem was, trying to remedy it, and things lost their labels. Things got put into containers that had labels that weren't theirs, and several of the things I'll know, like I know what oregano looks like, I know what basil looks like, I know what sunflowers look like. I don't need the labels to know what those things are, but there were a lot of things that I started for the first time this year. I started sage, I started tarragon, I started, gosh, I'm trying to think, a bunch of different kinds of poppies, a bunch of different, I know what my carnations look like. There are just a lot of things that I genuinely have no idea what they are. And so we're just going to stick them in spots and see what happens. And so that's actually kind of cool that my garden is going to be like one big mystery this year. And as things start to bloom and set fruit, it's going to be so fun to see what everything is. And my only concern is like there are some ground cherries and some tomatillos in there, and I've lost them. I don't know which ones they are. So like hopefully I put those in a good spot. I don't know. We'll see. We'll just have to see what happens. I don't know. But let's go ahead. I'm going to take all of this out to the garden. I'm going to start popping things out and setting them down where I want to plant them, and we'll start getting things in the ground. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I'm not planting out my tomatoes and peppers today because there are 2 days in my 10-day forecast where it will be in the high 30s. And that's still fine. They won't die, but it's too close to frost for me to trust my weather, my like weather app. My weather app says 38, 38, 39 for 3:30s evenings, and I don't trust that. I mean, it would just be 6 degrees off for that to turn into a frost, and I don't trust that. So I'm putting everything that's frost hardy out today, and then I think the Memorial Day weekend, I will put the rest out, tomatoes and peppers. So we'll have 2 planting days together, you and I, and that's fine. I was hoping I could get it all out today in one fell swoop, and it might be fine, but I don't want to risk it. I've already lost too much to lose anymore. So let's go ahead and I'll tell you guys what I'm planting where. Okay, you guys, first things first, I want to plant some carrots. So this year I have 3 varieties. I have the Kaleidoscope blend carrot that I grew last year. I have the St. Valerie carrot that I grew last year. And this year I'm adding the Black Nebula carrot. I'm really excited about the Black Nebula carrot. I also have Cylindra beets. I don't know if I'm going to grow those over here or not. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to have room to grow over here. I am starting to get some little weeds in here because I have not had this soil surface covered. So as I've been going along, I've just been picking them out. Here, this that you're seeing next to me is the garlic that I started last fall of 2022. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I'm really enjoying having something big and green in the garden. And then along the front here, I have sugar snap peas and spring blush peas. I actually planted those before I left to go on vacation, and they're finally taking off. Okay, so I know for sure that I want to do 2 rows of carrots. I grew carrots in this same location last year very successfully, and I did 2 rows then too. So I want to do 2 rows along here going all the way down the bed. The question is, Should I do carrot, 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 beet? Or should I do 2 rows of, I don't know, I'm not sure. Let me think about this for a second. So right here, this T-post that I have here divides this bed in half. It's an 8-foot bed, so we've got 4 feet and 4 feet. And I think I'm gonna do a row of kaleidoscope here and a row of St. Valerie here. And then where the T-post is on the other side, I'm gonna do a row of black nebula and a row of cylindra beets. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So what you have to do when you are planting carrots is make sure that the soil in your bed is not compact, because they need a light fluffy soil. I just amended this bed and added fresh soil on top. So as you can see here, it's pretty fluffy already. It's not too compact, but I'm still gonna go through anyway and just kind of turn it a little and make sure that it is nice and fluffy for the carrots. Okay, I've got it all nice and turned, and now I'm just gonna create a trench to place the seeds. Okay, so I went through and I dug a trench to put my seeds. And in years past, I've been very careful to seed just one seed every like 3 inches or so. I'm gonna try, but I don't know that I'm gonna put in as much care as I have in years past. And if you don't do that, if you just kind of pour the seeds in, then that means that you have to go through and thin. And that's fine. It just stinks because those are wasted seeds. Carrots don't transplant very well, so you could try to transplant the ones that you thin out elsewhere, but you're not guaranteed success. But you're also not guaranteed success doing it this way either, because if you have a poor germination rate, then you'll have less carrots. So, you just have to kind of try it out and see what works for you. If you choose not to thin and you have them spaced very close together, that's okay. It just means that the carrot that you end up with is going to be small because it didn't have room to grow to its full size. So immediately after planting your carrot seeds, you want to water them in, because carrot seeds need to be kept consistently damp. And if they dry out, you can really impact your germination rates. So I'm going to water them now, and I'm probably going to water them before dinner, and in the morning I'll water them, and I'll water them before I go to work tomorrow. I water my carrot seeds a lot, especially that first week that they're really trying to germinate. I keep them very moist. And that gives you the best bet of germination rate. And then even after that, you want to always keep your carrots well watered. Carrots definitely really like being watered. All right, now we're on the other side of where we planted the carrots. This is an arched trellis with cattle panels, and on one side I have carrots and garlic and sugar snap peas. On the other side I have sugar snap peas, a little bit of garlic. I didn't have enough to fill up this bed like I filled up that one, so I have just a few down there. And then here, I think I want to try to plant my lettuce this year. I completely failed at lettuce last year, didn't grow a single leaf, and I want to try to do better. Unfortunately, I started my lettuce seeds in soil that was no good, in that bag of soil, because I thought it was the seed starting mix and it wasn't. So they're little, and I already planted them. I didn't film it because you can't even see them. Like, you're not gonna be able to see them on camera, but I have a line of them going this way up against the cattle panel. On the other side of where the sugar snap peas are, I'm going to plant poppies. In between the poppies, I'm going to plant cosmos. Here's my thought process. I want to try and keep the lettuce shaded. The sugar snap peas will help that. The poppies will help that. The poppies don't last very long because once it gets really hot, they die back. So I'm planting cosmos in between them because the cosmos are a later season bloomer, and so they will grow up while the poppies are blooming, and then when the poppies stop blooming, the cosmos will start blooming. And hopefully I'll be able to have lettuce all season long because it'll be in a very shaded spot. This spot right here doesn't get any sun in the morning because of this tree. Right now it's a little after noon, I think, right now. and the sun is only just now hitting this bed. If I had sugar snap peas covering this trellis, it still wouldn't be hitting this bed. So that's my thought process. I'm gonna try to do that. My poppies are one of the flowers that I completely failed at labeling. I know what poppies look like, but I don't know which ones are which. I started like 4 or 5 different varieties this year, so I'm just gonna go for it and we'll see what happens. All right, now here are some of the plants that I do not know what they are. Let me show you. So, nasturtiums, sunflowers, cucumbers and zucchini. That's all that survived in this tray. These are all my carnations. I don't know which ones, but I only have 3 to choose from, so. These are some poppies. These are some dahlias. These are zinnias. These are hollyhocks. I don't know what these are. I don't know what these are. I don't know what these are. And I don't know what these are. I think they're flowers. These might be calendula. I have no idea what these 2 are. I have literally no idea. I can't even like make an educated guess. I have no idea what they are. So I think this bed that I'm sitting in front of last year was a flower bed. I think this year I'll make it a flower bed too. Last year, the bed next to me was also a flower bed, but I don't think it's gonna be able to be this year because I've got so much food that I'm growing this year. I think I'm gonna need that to be a food bed. So I think this is my flower bed. So also I grew the hollyhocks thinking I was gonna plant them by the shed again, and I don't think I am. Maybe, I guess I could. I don't know. This is hard. I definitely need more room. I was planning on adding garden beds this year, but I'm not. So we're just gonna have to make do with what we have, and I definitely think the garden's gonna be packed pretty full this year. You guys, I think I might have just found my first volunteer. This is my 2nd year with this garden, so volunteers are certainly possible. I have not found any yet. My echinacea came back, but that doesn't count because that's a perennial. So I've been looking to see if anything volunteered. A volunteer means that it was a seed that dropped from last year that sprouted and is growing by itself this year. That's what a volunteer is. And I think I found my first one right here. Let me show you. I think that's what this is right here. I'm pretty sure that this is a pumpkin. I'm not 100% sure that that's what it is, but this is where I grew my pumpkins and it sure looks like a pumpkin sprout, so I think that might be what that is. I'm gonna leave it and let it grow and see what happens. Oh friends, so I started this gardening video over a week ago and I ended up having to cut it short because, well, I'll show you what all I got planted. We got a lot planted together that day, but I am still not able to plant out everything because we just had a frost the other day. It got down, into freezing temperatures the other day, and it is the middle of May. And I've been watching other YouTube channels, and I see that I'm not the only one struggling with late season cold temperatures. And so I'm able to get a lot of stuff out, but I still haven't planted out my peppers. I still haven't planted out my tomatoes, and it's really disheartening to know where we were at this time last year. The season was so much farther ahead this time last year, but I'm learning an important lesson, and that is you have to just when you're thinking back on a previous garden season, you have to hang on to the parts of it that, touched your soul that year and let the rest of it go. You can't take that same, you can't expect every garden year to feel and be the same because you're just gonna, disappoint yourself or work yourself into being disappointed if you do that. So I can't go back to last year. All I can do is live present in this year, and this year it has been cold really far into the season. And I still have days in my 10-day forecast where we're dipping down into, there are 2 nights in a row where it's forecasting 41 degrees for the low. I know that that's just a range, which means it could be even colder than 41, and that is too close to, freezing temperatures for my liking. Not to mention, tomatoes and peppers don't like it when the evening temperatures get that low. They don't thrive in those temperatures. Even if they can survive, they don't thrive. And so I'm still bringing those in at night. I'm leaving them out during the day and then bringing them in at night. So I'm here today because although we're still not ready to plant out our tomatoes and peppers, that's going to end up having to be a separate video because I want to wrap this one up. I did make a decision in terms of where I'm going to plant the majority of my flowers because previously I had told you I was going to plant them in one of my main beds. Let me take you over to that bed. So this bed here is where I have my spinach, my onions, and this is the entrance into my garden. I have roses planted on those trellises there. And next to this bed, going down, this is the bed where I said I was going to plant my flowers. And in fact, I did plant some carnations along the back here. And I did that all the way down, even this one here. This is where I have my cauliflower currently. That's not going to stay in there, obviously, the whole season because it's going to end up bolting. I don't even know if I'm going to get a cauliflower, but it's there for now. So this bed was originally going to be my flower bed. I have changed my mind. I'm not going to do that anymore because as I was looking through my plants, I realized I have a lot of vegetables and I want a lot of vegetables. That's kind of really the point of my garden, is to preserve and to eat fresh and to have food for my family and friends. And so I want to use this bed that I was just referencing as another tomato bed. Now you might be wondering, you know, I don't have a cattle panel. I don't have any way to trellis those. This bed over here on the other side of the garden is where I have the trellis and where I planted my tomatoes last year. And that's where I'm going to plant them this year as well. I actually have a new method for trellising my tomatoes that I saw on Facebook Reels, I think, and I thought it was genius. So when it gets time to do that, to trellis the tomatoes, I will come back and we will talk about that together. But I just wanted to mention, this is no longer going to be a flower bed. This is going to be tomato bed. So I'm going to have 3 tomato beds. I've decided instead for the flowers that I'm going to plant them this year along the shed. Sorry, the sun's going to be right in my eye, so I'm going to be squinting. So over here, last year I attempted to grow hollyhocks. It was a giant fail. I planted them too late in the season and they did not mature in time for me to get anything off of them. I had planned this year on planting some sort of perennial along the shed. Lilac bush, rose bush, hydrangea, I'm not exactly sure what, but something along those lines. However, I don't have the budget for it this year. Tom and I talked about it. We have other priorities that we want to invest in this year, and that's not one of them because those are expensive. Your average rose bush, lilac bush, hydrangea is going to run you anywhere from $30 to upwards of $80, $100, depending on what you're getting. And I'm going to need several of them, probably 4 or 5 of them. And it's a want, not a need. So I decided this year, because I've got the space, we put this pretty border along here, we filled it with soil, it's ready to be planted in. I'm going to plant the majority of my flowers there this year, especially because I've got the backdrop of the white shed. I'm going to plant my sunflowers. I'm going to plant my hollyhocks, although again, I don't know if I'm going to get anything this year, but I'll try. And several other things in this bed here along the shed. And I've got space in front of the shed too. I have daylilies. But I have all that room in front of the daylilies to plant things. So my things like my cosmos and zinnias, and I just want this to be a big annual wildflower bed this year. That's kind of my thought, and that's going to free up a lot of room in my actual vegetable garden to plant vegetables, which is really what I want to be doing. So I'm going to take you around very quickly and just show you what all we accomplished together the other day before we start planting today. So like I said, this first bed is spinach, onion, and then over here I did plant 3 little beans, 3 little sugar snap peas. That's what these are here. And you can't see them, but there are some Brussels sprouts planted in there as well. They're very small. Coming down the way here, in the back, I planted carnations. That's what these guys are here. They're still very small, but I have faith that those will produce. And I planted them all the way down this bed as well. So these 2 beds here are largely unplanted, except for these cauliflower. They're pretty bare. And so this one I'm gonna use for tomatoes, and I think this is gonna be my overflow pepper bed because this is my main pepper bed here. So I'll just have the peppers come this way, and then I'll have my tomatoes there too. And I think that that'll work out fine. In between there, I think I'll plant some oregano, some basil, things like that. This is my echinacea that I started last year. And then this one didn't come back. So I just have 2, but that's fine. That's a weed. Can you see here, I have these beds totally uncovered. Look at all of the weeds that are coming up because Mother Nature likes to cover herself. Down here, I planted all of my cucumbers and my zucchini. So that's what we have growing here. Cucumbers and zucchini. And this was also my cucumber zucchini bed last year too, so it stayed the same. These are my main tomato beds, as you can see by the trellis. And in along the edge here, I have onions that I planted. Can't really see them too good. That's what this guy is. I have onions going in along the edge all the way down both beds. And I have them on the other side of the trellis there too. Some onions on the other side as well. Last year I did basil and oregano in this bed, but I'm switching it up this year. And then lastly, this bed over here, I planted my these are my 2 rhubarbs that I purchased from the farmer's market. And then all in through here, I have strawberries. I don't know if they're gonna survive or not. Let's take a look. I haven't looked at them since I planted them. No, you know, I'm not seeing it. In here, I planted some poppies, but they were not strong starts, and I don't see them, so I think they probably died. So that's okay, no big deal. And lastly, right here, this was that big pot of chamomile, and it was looking really rough because it was potted, it was up potted in that bad bag of soil, and so it was looking really rough. So I put it in the ground here. It is looking better. And then again, I have 3 more sugar snap peas that I'm gonna have just grow up this trellis alongside the roses here. This is a bare root rhubarb that I planted. You can kind of see here one of them, and it is coming up. So that's really exciting. These are my elderberry bushes that I purchased at the farmer's market last year. I put them in pots. Elderberry bushes can get pretty out of control, so I want them contained. So I put one there and one there, and they're actually looking really good. And then we come over here to this little garden. Hi, Cheeto. Oh, hey, Cheeto, while I have you, we have a very sweet little viewer named Luna. She's a little girl that watches our channel, and she is a big fan of Cheeto. And so I'm just gonna give a little shout out. Hi, Luna. And here we've got Cheeto. You can't come out here, bud, but you can say hi to our friend. You good boy. He's the kitty who I've said in the past has been sick. And he's still not 100%. He has issues with his kidneys, but he's doing all right. He's hanging in there, huh, bud? Huh. Okay. I gotta get back to the garden tour. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Okay, in this bed here, we've got my garlic. And then in behind the garlic, I planted carrots, and we've had a few. Let me see if I can find one. A few of them have germinated. Let me find one. Right here, that's what that is. That's a little carrot. Let's see. One somehow ended up right here. That's a carrot. So they are coming up. I planted some beets too. So it'll happen. They're coming up. And then my beans, I keep saying beans. And then my sugar snap peas back there are starting to climb the trellis. They'll get there. I finally figured out what was growing in here. These are sunflowers. This is just the inside here of in between these 2 beds and the trellis. And down in here, these are sunflowers. I threw the old sunflower plants in here for the chickens to have at it. And those are all volunteer sunflowers. And I'm just gonna let them go. Over here, I planted lettuce. So this is one of my original lettuce plants. It hasn't bolted yet, so I went ahead and planted it. And then here's a lettuce. Let's see. Here's a lettuce right here. Some of them made it, some of them didn't. Here's one here. I have terrible luck growing lettuce. And then along the back here, this is a poppy. This is a Cosmo. Oh, look at that. It's putting on a flower. Don't do that yet. You're way too little. Anytime something like this happens where it's putting on a flower and it's clearly not big enough to be doing that, I just pick it off. I do this with peppers too. You're not big enough. Focus on getting bigger. Another poppy, Cosmo, poppy, lots of weeds. Luckily for me, I'm pretty good at telling the weeds apart from what I planted. Pretty good. So I'm just leaving them. And then we had a big rain the other day, which actually made me very happy because, you know, I've got newly planted things out here. I love a good rain. But I had my seed starts on my patio table in trays, and I realized that they were drowning. So I took them out of their trays, laid the trays upside down, and put them in the grass so that they could drain. So I still have to plant all of this. I still have so much left to plant, and it's a little overwhelming, but it's okay. So I've got everything out here just hanging out, draining, getting some sun. And then over here, I left these on the table because they're not in trays, so they're fine. I'm gonna plant out my hollyhocks. Oh, look! Aw, look at how cute! So I figured out what these were. Remember how I told you guys I didn't know what some of these trays were? These two, this, and these, I think are alyssum. And I'm gonna plant these. I want these today. These are zinnias. I'm gonna plant these. These are dahlias. I might plant those. But I want to get some of this stuff in the ground really bad. So let's go ahead and do that. I hope you can see me because I can't see the camera. So first things first, I want to talk about the fact that you have to kind of tier anytime you're going to do like an aesthetic garden like this, you want to tier it based on height. So the sunflowers are going to be in the back. I'm going to plant the hollyhocks in front of those because I don't know if the hollyhocks are even going to happen. I might even plant the hollyhocks in between the sunflowers. And then from there, I'm going to do probably zinnias and a couple other things in front of that because you really want to try and keep your height tiered in a way that the stuff that is short doesn't get lost in the back. I'm just going to kind of lay them out. These have needed to be planted for a very long time, so they're not super healthy. Okay, I'm all done planting. I planted out all of my flowers except for one batch of seed dahlias that I'm reserving to kind of scatter throughout the vegetable garden because I just love that look of like things that appear random even though I'll have planted it. So I'm reserving those, and then I have another round of apricot cosmos that I started indoors, and they're not hard enough for me to plant them yet. So every flower has been planted except for those two. And so I'm gonna go ahead and show you kind of what I did. Okay, so along here, in the back, we have sunflowers, hollyhocks, sunflowers, hollyhocks, sunflowers, hollyhocks. I went down all along the way here and did that. The sunflowers for sure will get big. I don't know if the hollyhocks will. We'll see. And then in front of that, I have zinnias. That's what these are here. Zinnia, zinnia, zinnia down the way. And then in front of that, I went kind of back and forth with these other things. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. I remember how I did a poor job labeling this year and so many things got moved. I have no idea. I'm guessing calendula was at least one of the things. I don't know what the rest of it was. So I don't know what those heights are gonna look like, but I'm excited to find out. I kind of like the mystery. Over here I had this patch of dirt. I raked it up and put in just a couple other miscellaneous things. I think maybe these are cucumbers and watermelons. Or maybe zucchini and cantaloupe? I have no idea. I got such something random right there. I don't know. And then over here, I tucked in the rest, whatever I couldn't fit in here, I just randomly tucked in here. So in the front, I do think I planted alyssum. I put those in the front because they're typically ground cover, so I wanted it to kind of grow out this way. And then in here, you'll see I have some random, let me see, like right there, I've got something right there. Let's see, where is it? Right there, I've got something. Back there, I planted a few sunflowers just to give a little bit of height back there. I've got a little something random right there. So just kind of some random stuff in the front here since I have the daylilies. And that's it. That's all she wrote for now. I still can't plant out my peppers and tomatoes. And then I have a bunch of herbs left. My sage, my thyme, my tarragon, things like that. Because I had originally planned on building another raised bed in the middle of my main garden compound. I have all the stuff for it. I just have to find the time to actually do it. So I'm kind of gonna hold off as long as possible to see if that happens. And if not, I'm just gonna tuck them in throughout my vegetable garden and it'll be fine. You know what I've discovered as I was planting everything and thinking about this? I'm kind of, because at first I was like struggling with my disappointment. Like I did a really bad job this year. My seed starts are not great. I completely failed on labeling. I don't know what I have and what I don't have. I have no idea what's gonna take off and what's gonna die. Half of the flowers that I planted that I just got done showing you probably won't even make it because a lot of it was started in that bad bag of soil and was barely hanging on. I would like, you know how you like squeeze the bottom where the dirt is to try to get something to let go? I would pull gently on the plant and it would just pop right off and it would just be green and then it would just have one little root coming right off of it. And I'm like, I'm gonna put it in the ground. I don't know. So I don't even know what here is gonna survive. But I have a feeling, even though that's really disappointing and I don't know what's gonna live and what's gonna be where and what I'm gonna end up with, I have faith that I'll end up with what I need and it'll be fine. And not only that, it's gonna be so much fun as things start to come up and bloom. I'm really excited to see what I have and where things end up. And I just think it's gonna be an adventure and it's gonna make for really interesting YouTube because I'll be like, look at this random thing that I put here, but I didn't know that that's what it was. That's exciting. So, you know, that's just the vibe this year for my garden. Last year was very organized. I had everything where I wanted it. This year I have random volunteers popping up. I've got random stuff all over the place. That's exciting. That's fun. I'm lucky to be in a place right now where I'm not depending on this to feed my family. It's half for fun, half me learning how to preserve and how to grow and stuff. And whatever food I get out of it is really just a bonus. So I'm gonna go about it. I'm gonna keep a positive attitude about it, and we're just gonna do the best we can do. So that's all for now, guys. The next time I see you out here in the garden will likely be when we plant out tomatoes and peppers and herbs. I can't wait to show you what I have planned for the tomatoes. That's gonna be really interesting to see how that works. And thanks for staying with me. I know this was kind of chaotic, and I'll see you next time. Have faith, my friends, and keep moving forward. Bye.